things are challenging, and I think we've seen in the second half of the year. I think that's the kind of resilience that this team has shown. They're focused on tomorrow, and that's it. Nothing about any game that's come before, and I feel confident that they're gonna show up just thinking about the game they can play tomorrow.
Betsy, wait for the mic, please.
Oh.
Do you have an update on where things stand with Royce and Byron too?
Yeah, so we'll have all kind of final decisions on that come tomorrow. But Carlos and Royce and Byron have all been working out for the last week and tracking in a good direction, each guy differently. And I think that we'll have a much better sense for that after tomorrow morning.
Doe?
Royce was out there. Byron was not. What do you kind of look for from Byron and work behind the scenes, or as you guys kind of make a decision on that?
Yeah, each guy's different. I mean, I think in Royce's case, obviously the hamstring, very specific injury, went on the IL for that. He's been tracking, running bases, making sure that he's hitting. He took BP today. You guys all saw that out there. So I think for him, it's just all about making sure that's in a good place. And in Carlos's case, obviously dealt with the plantar issue. That's tracked really well for him, and that's a positive. Positive. There's been some positive momentum on that. I think in the context of Byron, it's just very different, right? He's been down for an extended period of time. We got him in a rehab assignment, got him in some rehab games, and then have continued the live BPs since. But at this stage, that decision is going to be made a little bit more broadly around kind of readiness, how it fits on our roster, what it looks like ultimately for us going into tomorrow. So we'll make that call in the morning.
The back, Jim.
Derek,
yeah.
When you look at these players that are injured, how much do you look at just this series and versus the extended run that could be here in front of you to get these guys on the field now versus maybe 3 more days could be more vital to their success?
Yeah, nothing's more important than winning tomorrow, right? Because you don't get anywhere if you don't win this series. So ultimately, our focus is on how they could fit and help us now. But as you said, Jim, you understand that at some point, if you don't think that player is in a good position to go help you during this series, or you're putting him in harm's way, you have to be careful with that. So I think that could lead to just different decisions for each of the players I just mentioned, right? The readiness, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach for that. We're gonna assess each guy differently, and I feel like we'll have a really good sense for that after tonight and into the morning.
Back to Phil.
Derek, for every player, Byron, Carlos, and Royce, that might go on the roster, there's one that might come off. How aware are the potential guys to get bumped of their status going in tomorrow?
Yeah, well, 2 have to get bumped naturally, right? You're at 28 to finish the regular season. You're going to be at 26 starting tomorrow. So we've talked to some guys. Rocco's really good ahead of time about talking through, hey, here's the situation with the roster. You got to stay ready. In some cases, maybe, and you can probably presume some of these on the pitching side or otherwise, as you think about guys who've thrown a lot of late or might fit for a subsequent round if we were lucky enough and fortunate enough to get there. So I think that those things are being discussed now. We're pretty upfront with each guy about what that looks like. So everyone in that room is ready to go in the event that they're on the roster, and we'll make that final call either later tonight or in the morning.
Dan.
Derek, what did you think of the way you guys were able to manage the pitching staff throughout the weekend and how they set up for this series and the playoffs?
Yeah, I think one of the things that about 2 weeks ago when we were trying to outline some of the guys coming back, notably Chris Paddock, who hadn't pitched all year, Brock Stewart, who coming off an injury, Louis Varland transitioning to the bullpen, in addition to a bunch of guys who are already on the team. Our focus and hope was to get them in Major League games, get stress tested, see how they feel, see how they come out of it, see how they rebound with a bullpen, a day or two after having thrown in the game. I couldn't be happier with the way those guys navigated that situation. Every day, I thought Chris did a really nice job with bouncing back. Certainly hadn't pitched all year. Louis transitioning to the bullpen. We knew that was going to be a little bit new for him because he hadn't had to do that yet professionally. And I think in Brock's case, he had really been throwing the ball well for the last couple of weeks, even prior to his activation, but we were taking it slow to make sure he was in a good place. I think it all lined up in a way where we were able to use those guys, get them some activity, and have a much better sense for how they could perform should we put them on the mound in the next couple of days.
Dave.
Derek, you traded a very good player for Pablo Lopez and then very quickly signed him to an extension. I guess what were the outstanding factors and why you see him as like a game 1 playoff series type starter?
I think what Pablo's earned is that game one with how he's performed this year. There's no question in my mind. I mean, this guy has done everything we've asked him. He's taken the ball, logs innings, has been dominant at times, and certainly has put himself in the category of some of the best pitchers, I think, in baseball. When we traded for him, we had heard good things about the makeup. We had heard things about the work ethic and how he prepares and what that looks like. He's exceeded those expectations and then some. And I think that his preparation and his, just for those who've been around him, many of you have for most of the season, it's unique in the way he approaches this. He's ready for this game. He's ready for this nod. There'll be a lot of adrenaline running for him tomorrow, but really proud of what he's accomplished this year and ultimately what we'll have with him for a lot of years to come.
Greg Strong, Canadian Press. What makes Kevin Gausman a tough out as far as your team in game one?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Gausman's he's pitched well for a few years now in a way that I remember going back to his amateur days, when he was a top of the draft pedigree type pitcher. You knew he had all the tools in the world, and just went through some ups and downs early on in his career. But what he's transformed into over the last few seasons is really incredible. I mean, I think that the stuff, right, just baseline, you watch the way the stuff comes out, the way hitters talk about his stuff, the way he attacks. It's going to be a tough task for our hitters. They know that, and ultimately, I think he's put himself with Pablo and some of those guys among the best pitchers really in the game.
Darren.
Derek, have you settled on 11 pitchers or 12 pitchers?
Yeah, so it's been a conversation internally. Obviously, you look at what teams have done in prior years. They're on a lot of 3-game series history in baseball. This has been a new format the last couple of years. And trying to understand what it could look like. We have a decent sense for what that is. Could somewhat depend on some of the position player conversations that we're having. So we're not ready to say that just yet, and we'll land on that tomorrow.
Doe.
What do you think it is about Pablo, whether it's like the work on his body with staying healthy or the new pitch, that kind of makes him able to so readily integrate those things and succeed with them right away?
Yeah, I think, you talk about both of those things. I think that what Pablo does, he has the aptitude, right, to think through how a change needs to be made. And I kind of think of it as athletic aptitude. Everyone kind of thinks about that as can he process it? I think it's this feel. When he took to that sweeper, it only took a bullpen or two and a couple of sessions out in the bullpen where he said, okay, I can see how this fits. It works well for me. I think the work ethic, you see him post. What you don't see behind the scenes is the work in the weight room, the intention to detail on his off day, all the things that he does behind the scenes to prepare with the advanced team and how he's prepping in his bullpens. I mean, he doesn't take anything for granted. I've, fortunate in my career, been around some really good starting pitchers. I would put his planning and process and the way he goes about his work up there with any of them.
Alden.
Derek, Alden Gonzalez, ESPN. I want to go back to the trade for him. I'm wondering, how difficult was it for you to part with Luis Arias in your search for starting pitching? What pushed you over the edge with Pablo Lopez? And what's it been like for you this summer, just sort of watching Arias sort of chase 400 at one point, but obviously see Pablo come into his own as well? It's pretty rare that a trade works out for both sides as quickly as this one did.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll start with Louis. I mean, I've always loved Louis Arias. This kid, anyone who's been around him knows he's a smile on his face, loves to play the game of baseball, has probably been always an underdog who's overachieved. And like that's who he is, and he loves that, and that's impressive. It was incredibly difficult to make that trade because I knew from a personal standpoint, we'd gotten to know him over the years, watch him come up from the minor leagues, dealt with a significant injury in the minor league, came back from that. You're watching a kid persist all the way through, and he's everything you want as part of a player on your team. That said, when we had the chance to acquire Pablo, we did our work on him, knew all those things. It's a difficult decision. It's a risk, right? When you're making a trade like that, sometimes you avoid those because you're afraid of maybe that risk. But we knew that we were hunting what Pablo could be, which is a true top of the rotation starter. You weren't going to get that easily without parting with something that was painful. We ultimately got a couple of young kids back, alongside Pablo that we really feel will factor in the future along the way. Tough conversation, and we had the opportunity. And when I called Louis, it was an emotional call on both sides. He was emotional, at that time, and I knew he'd be okay. I knew wherever he went, this kid was going to hit, and so he did that. And I was rooting for him through the summer, and ultimately, root for him now. He's got a chance to play in the playoffs again, and a chance to impact the Miami Marlins. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy it worked out on both sides. I think those guys will be connected, in ways for a long time. That's pretty special for both of them.
Hazel.
Hazel May with Sportsnet. What, if anything, have you learned about Eddie Julien that the metrics didn't necessarily tell you?
Yeah, Eddie's a great story, and I've got to tip our cap entirely to our scouting department. This is a kid who was not as on the radar in the draft year, right? He fell a little bit further in the draft at Auburn. He was a kid, obviously, coming from Canada with a little bit less baseball experience, in the early days for him. But when he got to Auburn, he hit. He always hit. And I think the thing that really stands out for me about Eddie over the last couple of years was we knew the offensive profile was going to be there. This guy, he takes pitches. He knows the strike zone exceptionally well. He's got power. He hits, in big spots, he finds a knack for getting the barrel of the ball. But I think really what I'm proud of with him is the defense. I think when he came in to us, and was starting to play some second base at the lower levels, he'd be the first to admit it was a little bit rougher. He needed to refine his game at a faster pace than maybe what he was used to in college. He worked tirelessly with our minor league coaches, with the staff all the way through to continue to get better and better and better. And now he's played both second and first up here really well throughout the course of the season. He's continuing to get better there. So we know the offensive profile. He's got power. He can really work a walk. He knows the strike zone exceptionally well, and he's fun-loving. He just loves the game. He loves playing the game, and I'm really proud of the work that he's put in and the work that led to him coming here.
Any final questions for Derek? All right, Derek.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and we'll
everyone.
invite Pablo Lopez to the stage. Thank you, Pablo. Phil, you want to start?
Pablo, what does it mean to you to be the game one starter?
It means a lot. These are the games that, as a kid, you dream of. I'm one of the players that, in past seasons where I would not be playing in the playoffs, I'm always watching the playoff games. Every game that would be on TV, I would be watching them, and I would always picture myself wanting to be on that situation, that scenario. So, having the opportunity to perform in a playoff situation and doing it for the Twins, it means the world to me, and I'm really, really looking forward to it, and just extremely grateful and excited.
Bobby?
Having the chance to stay in Minneapolis when the team went to Colorado, how much did that change your routine? How much did you try to keep it the same when you were away from the team for a few days?
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to make sure was that if I was staying back, I needed to be able to do everything the same I would if I was still with the team. So we went over all the things I would need, people I would need to be with me, which it wasn't a lot. I know I don't need to do too much. I wasn't going to try to do anything differently, change routines or anything. So I was able to come in, get my work in, and I wasn't all by myself. The rehab guys were there. Some guys were staying ready, staying loose. So yeah, it still felt that I was with the team in a way, and I was able to do everything the same I would have to make sure that my preparation, my routine just was the same to get myself in the best mindset, in the best shape for tomorrow.
Dan.
Pablo, I know there were no fans there for it, but what, if anything, can you take from the playoff experience in 2020 and put in your preparation tomorrow?
Yeah, it's just it's just being aware that every pitch matters. You have to make sure that the conviction, the determination, the mentality is there with every single pitch, because it's going to matter. Every pitch from the very first one is going to be high leverage. A pitch could change the outcome of the entire game. So it's keeping that in mind. Obviously not letting the mind take me from my plan. It's just controlling that, making sure that I stay in the present moment with that conviction and executing pitches. It comes down to having a plan, and then how well are we executing that plan, and then if we need to move on from that one, then okay, what's the next one, and then just making sure that our mentality is what can I do to execute this pitch right here, right now.
Go.
How much, if at all, did it affect your preparation for this to not know who you were facing until 2 days out?
I try not to think too much about it. in baseball, there's a lot of uncertainty, like in many, many areas. A lot of times you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who you're going to face. So I was always watching the games and keeping up with like all the different scenarios. I know there was a lot of them, a lot of like different possible outcomes of who we were going to face. But the team was great about providing me all the information needed. Like when the team left to Colorado, they left me stacks of like information for every possible team. And then as the weekend went, it started to narrow down. And then when it was finalized that it was the Blue Jays, I already had all the information I needed. And then it was all about then writing down my own reports, writing down my own plans. And then today was sitting down with the coaches and then just talk how we've been doing it all season long.
The back right, Alden.
Hey, Pablo. Alden Gonzalez, ESPN. What was the process like for you of adding the sweeper, and what kind of benefit has that had in terms of getting you to where you're at right now?
Yeah, so the process was last offseason I got the concept from Driveland, the place where I got my offseason programs from. I didn't really, because I was doing it remotely, I didn't get to like really work on it. But then when I showed up to spring training, the Twins were really, really good at explaining how it would benefit like a pitcher like me. I used to be mainly four-seam changeup and then the sing and occasional curveball to play the north-south, but I really didn't have anything to play the east-west game. And when we started having meetings, like we call them get-to-know-yourself meetings, and we were missing that. We were missing like that pitch that would give us the option to go to, like in my case, my glove side of the plate. Like the plate is 17 inches. Like if you can show the batter, the hitter, that you can throw something moving close to them, but then you can also expand far away from them. That's a lot of play to cover. Like it's tough to cover that much play when you have to think about 94, 95, 96, but also stuff going the other way. So once they started showing me all the numbers, all the information, how it would help making sure like to give yourself options to put people away. And then when you add that with the mentality the Twins have about getting ahead, staying ahead, early and ahead, like if you get an early out, great. And then if you get to 2 strikes, then take your shot. So I think when you added those things, like understanding the movement plot of the pitches, plus having that mentality to be on the attack, stay on the attack, like a lot of times good things can happen.
And what did somebody teach? Who taught you like the grip that worked for you, and was it easy or difficult for you to get good command of that pitch?
The hardest part was the grip. It's an unconventional grip because like a long time ago when I would hear of sliders, it was like with a big horseshoe and all that. But the sweeper is a seam shifted wake pitch. Like it's the way the seams work with the air pressure, like how they push the ball to the other side. So getting used to that grip was the hardest part. And then it was about trusting it, like trust, like throw it and the seams are going to do the job for you. And then like obviously Pete Mackey, Colby Suggs, Matt Daniels, our pitch design guy, like they were really, really good. And, they had the patience to like work with me every single day on my catch play, making sure that we were paying attention to the information, and they taught me how to read all the information with the TrackMan machines to know what to look at when we were practicing it.
Phil.
Pablo, you were 8 the last time the Twins won a postseason game. Is there any way that the weight of that history is on your mind at all, or any effect at all?
Well, I've heard about like the 0-18 thing a lot, and I feel like just like anything in life, nothing lasts forever, and I feel like if there's a group that can, like lean into this opportunity and embrace it, I feel like this group, like sharing a clubhouse with these guys, I can tell this group is as good as any to go out there and then like give the team, the fans, the community the opportunity to like celebrate something. I can say that majority of us have not been a part of that unfortunate streak, but I know our fans have. Our fans, the community, the state of Minnesota have been part of that. And I think we're embracing that, and we're going to use it as the motivation and the fuel we want and need to like not only do it for ourselves, because ultimately the goal is to win the championship, win the very last game of the season, but also like give the fans like something to like root for, celebrate, like let them know that we care about them, that we want to show up for them. And I think it's going to come down to take the field tomorrow and then the games after that, and like with a chip on our shoulder, and then just willing to put on a good show for them.
Darren.
Pablo, as you sift through that Toronto packet of information, as you think about the Blue Jays lineup, what stands out?
There's not a lot of holes. There's not a lot of like times where you can take a pitch up. Not that you should never take a pitch up, but like especially with a lineup like that, you really have to make sure that you're in your A game and understanding that like it's a lineup that you don't want to like really give in, but like you have to be on the attack. You have to like try to put as much pressure as you can on them. Let them know that you want them to hit your pitch rather than them having to hit the pitch they want to hit because you're not attacking the zone. So it's a good lineup. They have a good balance of lefties and righties. They can hit the ball the other way. They can put pressure on the bases. So it's just gonna be making sure that I stay convicted with every single pitch and understanding that a lot of times you're always one pitch away. So make it a good quality pitch, and it's just conviction, quality pitches, and just try to like put pressure and like have the control of like the at bat.
Any other questions for Pablo? Okay, thank you, Pablo.
Yep, thank you.
Rocco Baldelli will be joining us in a few minutes. Thank you. Just before Rocco comes in, tomorrow's schedule, Nina will send out later tonight. Rocco will be in here at 12:45-ish, and Sonny Gray at 1 o'clock. Kyle Farmer at 12:15. And reminder, no pregame clubhouse access. Clubhouse is open 10 minutes after the final out postgame. Media gate at 10? Media gate will open at 10 a.m. Farmer at 12:15 will be the Twins first. Waiting on the Blue Jay schedule before Nina sends it out. Any other questions, I guess? Sunny at 1 o'clock. It depends if he starts. Also, just for media dining, Nina will have food voucher cards with $18 loaded on them each day. You can use them at any ballpark concessions. And Peg's Cafe will be open as well in the back of the press box. You can get those meal cards when you pick up your credential or see Nina. Jerry. All right, Rocco is entering the room. We'll get started in a few seconds. You're my new leadoff hitter.
What a pro you are.
There he is. Phil Miller, let's start things off.
Hi, Rocco.
Hi, Phil.
What was the thinking of Pablo 1, Sonny 2 versus the reverse?
Well, they're both excellent pitchers and excellent options. I didn't actually really think I had to spend a lot of time comparing each one of them. Pablo's been pitching ahead of Sonny on the calendar since opening day, instead of reshuffling everything in September and complicating their lives. I figured just let these guys stay on schedule and keep pitching, and the way it played out, I thought played out pretty well.
Dope.
How are you feeling about where the guys with some uncertainty, where they worked out today?
Well, I think they've all made a lot of progress. I'm not going to actually discuss each and every one of them and just exactly where they sit and just how likely they are to play this week and beyond this week. One, I don't have every single one of those answers as we sit here right now. We have a pretty good idea, but we don't have that completely figured out just because we still have more time to make decisions. So I know that's a topic that a lot of people probably are interested in, who's playing, but we're going to set our lineup tomorrow when we hit that deadline, and we'll know the answers then.
Betsy.
We talk a lot about player postseason experience, but for you, having been through this 2 times now, what do you feel like you've learned, about the challenges of managing in the postseason?
Well, I think the emotion in the postseason is certainly probably one of the biggest differences in in every single regard. And I feel it too. You hit the postseason, you play these games that are of enormous importance. We basically work our entire lives in a lot of ways to get to this point to play these games. And these are games you want to tap into all of your experiences, everything you know, to succeed. And it means a lot in every direction. For myself as a player, coach, and now manager, having seen how these things play out in every direction. You feel it more. You feel these games more than any other game you're going to play. So that's the way that I interpret these games. Once things start rolling in your direction, you win your first game, and then you move on from there. Truly, anything is possible. I've seen it happen. I've been a part of it. But you want to start off good, and you want to go out there and play a good ball game and win your first game right off the bat. And that's our job tomorrow.
Audra.
How unique and fortunate of a position do you feel like you and your team are in right now, given the combination of the rookies you have that are contributing the way they are, with the amount of playoff experience, even World Series experience you have in the clubhouse?
Yeah, it's actually a fun topic for me to talk about because our young players that came in, they re-energized our group in so many ways. Maybe even woke me up in a lot of ways too. The Eddie Julian factor. They all fall under the umbrella. I think you could probably call it the Royce factor or the Wallner. We could call it whatever you want. But these guys did a lot for our club, and then we also have some serious veteran presence and experience on our club too. So we got a little bit of everything. I don't think you can label our group something and it encompasses everyone. I like it's a well-rounded group that offers a lot of different things. So our rookies have certainly put us here. I don't think we're sitting here without the performances by those guys. And now they get their first experience playing in these big games too. So after today, they're not playoff rookies anymore.
Hazel, on your right, Rock.
Hazel May with Sportsnet. Rocco, in a short series, do you find yourself trying to strike a balance between managing aggressively or not changing what's been working for you?
Well, I actually talked to our club today about a few different things. One thing I mentioned to them was we're going to stick with what we know and stick with what we do in a lot of different ways. In playoff environments, we're going to find ways to get our high leverage relievers in the game. That's not a secret or anything like that. But we're going to find ways to get those guys in certain situations. you're able to kind of pack your bullpen with a lot of really good arms. So I think as the series goes on, we're going to find ways to get them in there. Really, other than maybe some pitching decisions. I mean, all that said, we're going to ride Pablo and Sonny. Those guys have pitched us to this point, so we're going to let them go out there and do their jobs too. But besides some what I would just call some pitching decisions that may look a little different than what we've typically done, I think we're going to operate very similarly.
Alden, back right.
Hey, Rocco. Alden Gonzalez, ESPN. What were your expectations of Willie Castro and how he fit on your roster when the season began, and what has he meant to the trajectory of your team this year?
So, have I told the story about Treehouse Brewery and meeting my buddies this off season to you guys at any point? Yeah, did I tell you that, Aaron? Okay, we'll tell the story. So we were talking to Willie Castro this offseason and his agent, and we were excited about bringing him in. We had seen him a lot with Detroit, and so Jeremy Zoll called me, one of our assistant general managers, and said, "Hey, can you give Willie a call today?" So I'm like, "Well, I'm meeting my buddies at Treehouse Brewery in Charlton. I'm driving up there and having a couple beers and relaxing, and later on in the afternoon heading home." And so I went and had a couple beverages. It was a good day. And then I call Willie, and I'm expecting this long conversation about all kinds of things. And I said, "Listen, man, I think you can really help us." And I said, he was a non-roster invite to camp. And, talked to him about a few things. Maybe a minute I was on the phone with him. I was expecting something longer. He was very to the point. He said, "Yeah, that sounds good." He was signed soon after. He shows up to camp, and he has been a revelation for us, to be honest. And we've asked him to do virtually everything you could ask a player to do, and he's done everything at a very high level. He's been one of our MVPs this year, is what he's been. So, you put him in the infield, you put him in the outfield. He's been an exceptional base runner. He's stolen 30-some-odd bases, and the at-bats have been awesome from both sides of the plate. So, he's been, I expected a lot from him, but we've gotten so much more than we ever could have hoped for. And I think I'm lucky he wanted to come play here because he had a choice as far as what he was going to do. So it's worked out really good, I think, for everybody.
Any others for Rocco?
It's good stuff, so I probably will still have to pay for it. Yeah. Nice spot.
I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you, Rocco.
You got it. Thanks, guys.